Welcome to Horror Echo, where the shadows of the unknown come alive. I'm your name, your guide through the dark and twisted corners of the supernatural. Here, we delve into chilling tales, unravel terrifying mysteries, and explore the spine-tingling legends that haunt our world. Prepare yourself for a journey into the macabre, as we echo the horrors that lurk in the darkest recesses of the human mind. If you're ready to face your fears and hear the whispers of the unknown, subscribe and join us. The echoes of horror await. In the heart of the submarine, the engine room stretched out like a dark, cavernous abyss. The space was dominated by shadows that danced eerily on the cold, metallic walls. The relentless hum of the machinery provided a constant, unsettling backdrop. It was within this foreboding environment that a young sailor, new to the crew and eager to make a good impression, found himself alone during the midwatch. Known by his call sign, Ice Sir, the sailor was still adjusting to his surroundings. His task for the night was to locate specific equipment to demonstrate his proficiency to one of the watchstanders. The lower levels of the engine room resembled a labyrinth, with narrow passages and intimidating equipment bays. Determined to complete his assignment, Ice Sir pressed forward, his footsteps reverberating through the oppressive quiet. Descending a ladder into a dimly lit compartment, Ice Sir noticed a sudden movement. Approximately 15 feet ahead, he glimpsed a figure swiftly crossing his path before disappearing around a corner. The sight startled him, but what truly unsettled him were the details. The figure was clad in utilities, a light blue blouse and dark navy slacks, garments that had been out of service for 3 years. Intrigued and slightly unnerved, Ice Sir followed the sound of the footsteps, but when he turned the corner, the figure had vanished. His heart raced as he scanned the empty room, searching for any sign of the mysterious figure. The only other person awake was the watchstander stationed at the top of the ladder, who was awaiting Ice Sir's return with the equipment. Unable to rationalize the encounter, Ice Sir considered the possibility that it might have been an illusion caused by the dim lighting or his own exhaustion. Nevertheless, the experience left him deeply disturbed. 4 months later, Ice Sir found himself aboard a different submarine of the same class. During a casual conversation with a sailor who had previously served on his old ship, he learned of a chilling story. The veteran recounted a haunting incident from Ice Sir's former vessel. Years prior, a sailor had tragically ended his own life in the very engine room where Ice Sir had his unsettling encounter. The sailor's body was discovered dressed in the old utilities, exactly the same light blue blouse and dark navy slacks that Ice Sir had seen. The revelation hit Ice Sir like a wave of cold realization. His face displayed a mix of shock and disbelief as the connection between the ghostly figure he had seen and the tragic fate of the sailor became glaringly clear. The engine room, once a mere maze of machinery, now bore an unsettling presence, a spectral reminder of a life lost amidst the shadows of the deep. In the remote and rugged terrain of Bridgeport, California, an unsettling tale has emerged from the experiences of Corporal Oscar of the United States Marine Corps. This story, shared under the veil of anonymity to protect the active-duty Marine, recounts a chilling episode from a training exercise that took place from late September to October. Corporal Oscar and his platoon, Alpha 2 of the 1st Combat Engineer Battalion, arrived at Bridgeport for a joint exercise with Victor Unit 21. Prior to their arrival, they were briefed at Camp Pendleton about the risks associated with high-altitude training, including potential hallucinations due to the lower oxygen levels. They were also warned of strange occurrences in the area, such as reports of animal packers, Marines patrolling with horses and donkeys, unexpectedly moving through the bases at night. The Marines' training regimen included rigorous physical exercises and acclimatization to the high-altitude environment. After spending 2 days adjusting to the altitude, which is known for its thin, frigid air, the Marines set up camp and began exploring the mountainous surroundings. Their initial sense of camaraderie and adventure took a darker turn about 2 weeks into the exercise. On one particularly cold and snowy night, as the Marines were settling under their tarps for the evening, Corporal Oscar heard a sound that shattered the silence of the mountains, the distinct, eerie noise of a rifle's charging handle being racked. Given the tactical environment and the deep, unsettling silence that enveloped the mountains, such noises were both unwelcome and disconcerting. Initially, Oscar assumed it was Lance Corporal Waterdog, known for his habit of fiddling with his rifle and bayonet, trying to play a prank. However, when Oscar checked, Waterdog was nowhere near his weapon, and no one else was around. Oscar's concern grew, and he decided to investigate the source of the noise. His sergeant, who had also heard the sound, conducted a check with the fire watch but found no explanation. The sergeant, a seasoned veteran with a no-nonsense attitude, dismissed the noise as possibly a prank and instructed Oscar to return to his sleeping bag. Despite the sergeant's attempt to downplay the situation, the tension among the Marines was palpable. The next morning brought no relief. The Marines awoke to find their tarps scattered on the ground, and the boulders and stakes that had anchored them were missing. The disarray of their camp was unsettling enough, but the sergeant's later recounting of a disturbing sight added a new layer of fear. He described seeing a bald, naked figure with glowing eyes peering down from a rock face. When the figure realized it was being watched, it quickly vanished into the shadows. The eerie sight and the unsettling noise led to a flurry of speculation among the Marines. The sergeant's description seemed to align with the sound Oscar had heard, prompting unsettling theories about their encounter. Some speculated that the noise might have been the breaking of a branch, possibly caused by the figure climbing a tree or moving through the underbrush. Others believed they might have encountered something far more sinister, a presence that was far more disciplined in its stealth than any Marine or infantryman could be. The experience left the Marines puzzled and unnerved. The haunting nature of their encounter, coupled with the mysterious disappearance of their equipment, left them grappling with the possibility of encountering something beyond their understanding. The tale of Bridgeport serves as a haunting reminder that some mysteries, whether they are skinwalkers, mythical creatures, or something even more inexplicable, are best left unexplored. As the Marines continued their training in the eerie mountains of Bridgeport, they were left with a lingering sense of unease, forever haunted by their unsettling encounter. The unknown forces that might be lurking in the shadows of those remote hills remain a chilling reminder that not all phenomena can be easily explained or understood. I suppose you could call me a lazy individual. There are only a handful of things in life that truly captivate me, and expending any effort to pursue those interests is definitely not one of them. I haven't felt the inclination to do anything outdoorsy in years. Instead, I prefer to lounge in front of my old TV. It's not anything special, just a flat screen that's probably seen better days, maybe about 12 years old. And yes, I've got satellite TV, which, while not luxurious, is enough to keep me occupied. My evenings are usually the same, me sprawled out on my worn-out recliner, a blanket draped over my legs, and a bowl of chips within arm's reach. I rarely venture outside, and the only time I interact with people is through brief exchanges at the local grocery store. It's a routine that's comfortable, if not particularly exciting. The stormy night. One summer night, as a storm raged outside, I found myself glued to the television once more. The rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled, creating a symphony of nature's fury. The television signal was on the fritz, flickering between static and the incessant, searching for signal, message. My frustration grew as I stared at the screen, wondering if the storm would ever pass. Desperate for some form of distraction, I fumbled for the remote control, buried deep in the crevices of my recliner. I flipped through channels aimlessly. Most channels were either glitching or displaying the searching for signal message. Just as I was about to give up and head to bed, I stumbled upon a channel I didn't recognize, Channel 73, with the peculiar name, Ask Why. The Cryptic Channel. My curiosity was piqued by this odd channel. The program description was unusual. It didn't offer any typical infomercial details. Instead, it simply read, "Supplies are running out." This cryptic message gave me a feeling of déjà vu, as if I had encountered something similar before, but I couldn't place it. The channel number and name were unfamiliar, and the late hour only added to the strangeness. Despite my growing discomfort, I decided to watch. The program was a brief 15 minutes long. As I selected it, the screen was initially filled with static, something unusual for satellite TV, which typically shows only a black screen with a signal message. The static persisted for a few minutes before clearing to reveal a murky swamp. Bullfrogs croaked in the background, dragonflies buzzed, and the dirty water seemed oddly significant. I found the scene unsettling but couldn't pinpoint why it felt so familiar. The host and the alligator. At 3:18 a.m., an Indonesian man appeared on screen. He was speaking to someone off camera, and the camera shook slightly, suggesting he was conversing with the crew. The man turned away from the camera, shouting angrily. The scene was uncomfortable, but not yet alarming. The man then introduced a product, making a sweeping gesture towards something off-screen. At 3:20, a large alligator was revealed. Its skin was rough and jagged, its teeth sharpened like something out of a nightmare. The host approached the alligator without a hint of fear and began to saw at its skin with a serrated blade. To my horror, the alligator lay still, as if it were accustomed to such treatment. The unthinkable act. By 3:23, the host proudly declared that the gator's skin remained intact despite the sawing. He then announced that they would test the gator's teeth and jaw strength. He backed away, shouting off camera. Moments later, he returned carrying a teenage girl who struggled against him. She was American, dressed in muddy jeans and a long-sleeve shirt. The scene took a horrifying turn as the host and a cameraman, an overweight man in dirty clothes, wrestled the girl into the frame. The cameraman struck her violently, silencing her. They then tossed her towards the alligator, and my heart sank as the gator attacked. It seized her arm, then her neck, and proceeded to devour her entire body. The scene was ghastly. The gator consumed her from the neck to the head, crunching through bone and flesh, leaving behind a gruesome mess of body parts scattered on the swampy ground. The host's haunting gaze. At 3:28, the camera returned to the host, who stared directly into the lens with a chilling, unblinking gaze. It felt as though he was watching me personally, his eyes following my every movement. The broadcast ended with a final message about running low on supplies, but the host's haunting stare lingered in my mind. The aftermath. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. When I opened them, his visage was still there. It was as if his stare had imprinted itself on my mind. I tried to move on, throwing out the satellite receiver and focusing on reading to distract myself. Yet, the fear remained, gnawing at my thoughts. The question that plagued me was whether it was the host's terrifying stare or the grim threat embedded in his final message that unsettled me more. I wondered if he had been warning me, or if he was simply watching me through the screen. The thought of being observed in such a way was more disturbing than the horrific content of the broadcast. A lingering fear. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of that night clung to me like a shadow. I avoided television altogether, but the fear still gnawed at me. I tried to find any information about Channel 73, but it didn't exist. It was as though it had vanished without a trace, leaving me with nothing but an unsettling memory and a deep sense of dread. My once peaceful routine had been shattered, and the thought of being watched, even now, sent shivers down my spine. The broadcast, the alligator, the girl, it all seemed like a nightmarish hallucination. Yet, deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more sinister at play. As I lay in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder if the eyes of the host were still on me, waiting in the darkness. As the months pass, the fear of that night remains a constant companion. I've tried to move on, but the image of the host's unblinking gaze and the message about supplies running out have become a part of my reality. It's as if that broadcast has seeped into my life, leaving me with a chilling sense of paranoia that I can't escape. The stormy night and the unsettling broadcast have left an indelible mark on my mind, a haunting reminder that sometimes, the most terrifying things are the ones we can't fully understand or escape.